This book box idea was inspired by Erin from the provincial farmhouse. My first issue was to find a book box. Well, I had ordered this one from Amazon. It's pretty large. Plus, it's not a book box, it's just a box. It doesn't have the extended front and back end covers like a book box does, like this one here. Good bit smaller. I got it from Michael's. The only issue I'm having is because I want to put some lights on the front, I'm going to have to figure out how to do that, since you see there on the inside it's just flat. I've got a couple of ideas on how I might do it, but this is the box I'm going to have to go with for this particular project. And I'm going to save that other box, wooden box, for another special Christmas decor piece. My next step was to sketch out my design using graph paper so that it's much easier to measure. I had researched various pictures like Nutcracker background drops. They're really things that are used for photographers, but I found one that I really liked because I wanted to do Nutcracker. The first thing here I'm doing though is drawing out my box, and I had to adjust because I couldn't go all the way to the edge because of the hinges there. That ends up being an issue, but I figured out how to fix it because I thought it was going to look weird to have the hinges showing, but I figured out a way to do it where I'm covering the hinge, but the hinge still works. This is the picture that I chose, which I just love, but obviously I cannot fit that whole picture on the book box because it's a landscape picture and not, what's the other one? Up and down? It's not landscape. Anyway, so I have decided, okay, I'm going to have to cut off part of it. And so now I'm just kind of measuring to kind of see how I can fit this picture, this design, onto the cover of the box. Before I did too much sketching, the focal point here are the Nutcrackers. So I'm measuring the mold that I have. It's a Prima Redesign mold. It's really gorgeous. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, these Nutcrackers have to fit exactly where they are in the picture. They're kind of crossing the door a little bit, but they're also to the left and to the right of the door. So I just started drawing and seeing how it was all going to work out. Rather than gluing my frame directly to the book box, I decided I wanted to completely make it out of chipboard, like a separate piece, and then I would glue that onto the top cover of the wooden book box. So this is heavyweight chipboard. My cutter will not cut through it all the way, so what I have to do is, as you saw there, cut, flip it over, and cut in the same spot again. At this point, I have redrawn where the cutouts are going to be, which are the recessed areas on this door frame. And using my handy dandy little finger cutter, I love this thing. I have so much more control. I am cutting out all of the pieces that will be recessed. I knew I wanted my frame to be 3 chipboard pieces thick, but it wasn't necessary for me to painstakingly cut 2 more frames. So instead, I started cutting just little strips and glued them to the back of my frame piece that I had already finished. And I used score tape and liquid glue to adhere these pieces to the back. Even though I had sanded the edges, I really didn't like how it looked. You could see the 3 pieces of chipboard. They weren't perfectly straight. Didn't like that, so I cut some more strips of chipboard. This time I did glue to all of the edges, inside and out, and it gave it some depth, and that it worked out perfectly, because then I was able to add some castings from decorative molds and a series of round wooden dowels here and there, and also some little wood pieces that I had off of an old door frame for like a miniature dollhouse.
in the air, 'cause something is waiting for me. Oh, oh, oh. I've been good, but I can't last. Hurry Christmas, hurry now. I can't wait to see what's under the Christmas tree for you and me. Oh, little bad toys that cuddle and woo, dinosaurs, boats, and kitty cats too. Santa Claus is coming. I know that Santa Claus is coming. Oh, little bad toys that cuddle and woo, dinosaurs, boats, and kitty cats too. Santa Claus is coming. I know that Santa Claus is coming. Santa is coming. I know, I know. Santa is coming. Oh.
At this point, I needed to know exactly the size of my door opening for when I do construct the door. So I traced that out. And now, with all of these things, these different things on here, molds, wood, chipboard, I wanted to give it a cohesive look. Plus, I had some areas where, like the wood strips, I didn't get them perfectly cut. So using a heavy body gesso, I'm going to cover the entire board, and on the back side too, where I had to add those frames back in. They weren't perfect and you could see some little gaps, so I also gessoed from the back side in those little areas. Some helpful tips when cutting balsa wood or basswood is to begin by making your cross grain cut, so against the grain, cross grain. And when you do so, obviously you need to use a metal ruler and work slowly. Go lightly with your first few passes until you can feel your blade digging in, and then you can go a little more pressure to completely cut through it. So this is just a scrap piece of balsa wood, and I am cutting out my door. The picture, they are double doors. Well, I didn't want to cut them apart, so I'm using just a little tool there. Basswood, balsa wood especially, is very soft. I mean, you can score it with a pencil. So I'm just creating a groove to give the illusion of it being two separate doors. After that, I will draw my outline and start adding all my little decorative elements.
Something's tugging at my sleeve. I do believe it's Christmas. It's cold outside, but I'm warm within, 'cause Christmas time is here. Children playing in the snow, a merry game they play, chasing each other to and fro, laughing all the way. Oh, what a jolly time to have the whole family here for a few days of love and grace. But when Christmas has gone, it'll be another year. When Christmas has gone, it actually was on a Christmas day you came my way. That once upon a long ago, the Bethlehem star must have shown the way that led you to me. Now from our love and a little help from above, we've raised our little clan like it's part of a master plan. Still, when Christmas has gone, it'll be another year. When Christmas has gone, when Christmas has gone. When Christmas has gone. Oh, what a jolly time to have the whole family here for a few days of love and grace. But when Christmas has gone, it'll be another year. Another year. Oh, when Christmas has gone, it'll be another year. Merry Christmas.
The green that I had used on the frame was a good base, but it doesn't exactly match the decoupage paper, the green in the decoupage paper that I will be using for the back cover and the spine. It has a little bit more blue tone in it. So now I am using Deco Art's Hauser Dark Green, and it's more of a dry brushing technique to some extent, just kind of highlighting areas that are more raised just to get my tone value there. There will be more dry brushing going on this frame. If you look at the picture I am copying, you'll see there are two tall, skinny pine trees in the panels left and right below the coach lights. I don't have a mold that is that skinny, so I'm going to be using IOD's Oh Christmas Tree mold, and I'm going to build 2 skinny trees. They are a little bit taller than my soldiers, so I will keep that in mind. I'm so sorry this is not totally in frame. This is a little present mold that I got from Amazon, which will be linked in the description box below the video. I tried several different present sizes there. I would have liked to have had room to do 3 on each side like in my picture, but there isn't room. So I had to choose a tall, skinny one. Also, to the right of what I'm doing there, there's a little lantern. I'm going to be using the Baubles Mould and one of the redesign molds that has a nutcracker that's holding a lantern. I'm assuming those little gold pieces in the picture are like gas lanterns. I don't really know what they are, but I wanted them there. This is my next layer of dry brushing onto the frame. It's still not blue enough, and I don't think it is even after this step. Just have to wait and see what it looks like dry. But I'm using some metallics now. A metallic festive green, a metallic teal, and I end up mixing in a metallic rich espresso to darken it a little bit, and all of those are deco arts. This is just dry brushing over the high points. Want to pause here that I'm showing how I cut out for the hinge on the side piece that I put on. I cut little notches, and that allows me to open it again. Most of the time when I have clay castings and I'm ready to paint them, I like to put a dark wash on first. Kind of depends on what the casting is. In this case, all of the greenery, the trees. I am using traditional burnt umber mixed with water, and after I really pounce that in, making sure there's no more white clay showing, I take a dry cloth and just kind of brush over it. That's going to be my base coat for all of the greenery. The base coat for my little torches or gas lamps or whatever you want to call them is Deco Arts Metallic in Splendid Gold. I will be doing a chrome finish on the presents and on the Nutcrackers. I will show a few clips of that, but I will also include a very detailed video of a Nutcracker that I did in this finish several years ago with thorough steps. Anyway, right now I am painting the faces in just a folk art parchment. I changed my mind on the coloring I wanted on these little lanterns. I used distressed foundry wax on all the little balls on the garland, and I thought, okay, I want all of the gold to be the same. So with the foundry wax, you have to shake that bottle a lot, and then you just want to use a very small amount out on your palette because it dries extremely quickly. And as soon as you get it painted, you need to use a heat gun to activate that wax, and it turns into a beautiful metallic. This color is Statue. They make 4 colors. This is more, I would say, of an antique gold look. Some short video clips here of how I am doing the chrome finish on these little nutcrackers. First, I am using a nail gel top coat on the parts where I want to make a chrome color. I will do this 3 different times because I'm using 3 different colors. The first is a metallic green. So I paint on, actually using a little paintbrush and not the little applicator that comes with it because it's a little too large for these small miniature castings. I paint that on, the base coat, and then I use a UV light for 60 seconds to dry it. Following that, you just rub on whatever chrome color powder that you want, and then I do all of my chrome colors first. A silver on the pants and a metallic red on his coat and on the base of where he's standing. After all the chrome finish is done, it's at that point that I brush on a top coat and then use the UV light for 60 seconds to seal in that shine. Then I can finish up the Nutcracker with whatever paints I want to use. And for my gold, again, I'm using Tim Holtz Distressed Foundry Wax in Statue. Using the heat gun over that to get the wax to shine up does not harm the chrome finish. I'm not far from finishing up all these little pieces with the finishing touches. The first thing I'm doing here is using a home decor wax. I'm not sure what color it is. It's just really dark. And I'm antiquing the little guys' faces and hair and their gloves to give it more of an aged look. And I also use this on the trees and the greenery garland in little certain spots where it looks a little too light, and using that gives it a little bit more depth and a realistic look. I am going to be putting some lights on the front of this box, as I had mentioned before. And my plan to have everything from the front side, it wasn't going to work. So I'm having to go to plan B. The first thing I need to do is mark where the book closes on the inside front flap that is flat. I can't have it be flat, so I've got to make a frame that will sit inside the bottom of the box when you close it. I wanted the edge of the book to be gold, and then I'll antique it again. But because I want all the golds to be the same as much as possible, I am using the Ranger Distress Foundry Wax again in Statue. Works great even on wood. I then taped off the gold paint edges so that I could add some texture to where the book pages are going to be, and then trowel through it to look like a stack of book pages. I am using DecoArt's dimensional texture. I believe it's called dimensional paintable texture. Anyway, I'm troweling that on with various spatulas, and then I'm using an old hair clip, I don't know what it is exactly, to create the striations to look like book pages. I will have to let this dry overnight. The area where the door locks and the back plate go onto the two doors is so tiny. I was not going to really be able to use clay and have it look like anything. So I decided to use the Cadence three-dimensional paint pen again to create the design. In fact, on that very door there, I used that same pen to kind of create some little connections between my two molds and the two center panels there. So after I do this, I'll have to let it dry well, but I like the dimensional pen versus the contour liners for something like this because it holds its shape and it's thicker, thus dimensional. Also, for the handles, I did roll out some clay earlier, a couple of days earlier, and kind of curved them and left them to dry. And now I'm using my third hand tool just to hold those little handles to be able to paint it with the same Cadence dimensional paint. It doesn't want to paint on super smoothly, but it needs to be the same color. And this is one area, other than the lights that I'll be putting on, that I cannot use the Foundry Wax. So this will be a little bit different color of gold, but I can antique it some. And honestly, hardware and light fixtures, it's not necessarily going to match something that's been painted, even on a house. The book edge texture medium is now dry. If I had it to do over again, I think I would use maybe one of Pentart's texture mediums instead of this Deco Art Dimensional because it's kind of rubbery, and so it was pretty hard to sand those little lumpy bumps off. I had to pick some of them off flatter. But anyway, now that it's dry, I'm smoothing that out and getting some of those little bobble bits off. And then I taped off the gold paint again. I don't want to have to redo that with a heat gun. So I taped it off and I painted the book pages in an antique white. Whenever I'm using lights for miniatures, I like to use a company called Evan Designs. They make a great product, very easy to use. These are their largest little coach lights, and I need to paint them along with the little clay back plates that I made. I need to paint them with the Cadence three-dimensional pen paint. I'm using again my third hand to hold the light fixtures to make them easier to paint. I should have tested these before I painted them, but I forgot to do it. So I'm testing them now just to make sure they work, putting the two wires between a coin cell battery. Eventually I will show you how these are put together. I'm poking some holes in my back plate so that I can slide those wires through them, and I need to check the placement of where I want these lights to go and mark them on my frame so that I can then drill a small hole. Notice that I've already glued on the Christmas trees, and the purpose of that was, again, for me to be able to judge better where I wanted to place the coach lights. I changed my mind about how I wanted to treat the spine of the book. Instead of wrapping decoupage paper completely from the back side up the spine. So I had to do that little section of the spine on the back of the cover in the Foundry Wax. Next, I painted the spine in my mixed color first, and then did a black wash around the edges. Using that same decor wax in that dark brown, I stained the textured book pages. Using DIY's Liquid Patina, I decoupaged on my Decoupage Queen rice paper onto the back cover, just to the edge of the gold. I'm ready to glue on my frame and all the little embellishments, but until I do that, so there are some steps I have to do first, which is to drill holes in the book box top. But I also have to make sure that where I put the holes, I am not going to hit the frame that I had created inside, and I was going to hit the frame. So I remeasured and went in a little bit as far as I could to avoid hitting my frame. I used UHU adhesive to attach my coach lights to the little clay back plate. Antiqued the gold with Pentart's antiquing paste in Umbra, and use the same product to antique the door handles. I glued the coach lights to the frame, again using the UHU all-purpose adhesive. To ensure that none of my little small cracks would show through, I painted the book cover red in the areas around the door frame and green in the other parts, and then black washed again. Each of the light products that you order from Evan Designs will come with 2 little shrink tubes in the package. I am using a 3-volt Cohen cell battery holder with a switch, also from Evan Designs, to connect my lights. It's really very simple to do. You just first put your shrink tubes onto the wires on your cell battery holder. Then you connect red wires to red wires and black wires to black wires. Need to make sure that you wrap your wires very, very well. Then you slide the shrink tube up to cover them. The battery has a plus sign and a minus sign. The little holder has a plus sign showing you the direction the battery should fit in. I always check the lights, make sure they work before I use heat to actually shrink wrap the shrink wrap tube.